The Indian Ocean region is from the east coast of Africa to the west coast of Australia. The vast expanse is spread over an area of almost about 10,000 kilometers from west to east. North to south is anything between 7 to 9,000 kilometers. It is the only ocean today in the world which is based on name of a country. And there is the old saying that he who controls Indian Ocean will control Asia. In 21st century, he who controls Asia will be controlling the world. This is the Asia century. In Asia century, it is the Indian century. When you talk about Make in India, which started in 2014, or talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, which started in 2022, now India has started doing things, make for the world. The orientation of the society is towards social science, political science, history, geography, medical, law. We need to have more number of people doing PhD. That is the central cornerstone to actually grow and become a global power.
Welcome to Lighten. Today, we just don't welcome a man, we welcome a legend. A tale crafted in the crucible of service, honed by the fires of sacrifice, and adorned with the jewels of wisdom. Major General Sudhakar Jee is not just a name etched in the annals of defense. He embodies courage, leadership, and strategic vision. From the heights of Siachen Glacier to the tables of diplomacy in United Nations, he stood calm in chaos, very resolute in turbulence, and he held his high across India and across the globe. He led evacuations from war zones, crafted cross-border strategies, and advised leaders at the highest levels, not just with knowledge, but with lived insight. For General Sudhakar Jee, winning is a way of life. It's a habit. It's almost a second nature. But his impact reaches beyond. Now his mind shapes boardrooms, think tanks, and the next generation warriors, builders, leaders, and thinkers. It's an honor to have you here today with us. And even a greater honor to have you on my podcast. And today it is so special because it's not just me, it's also Indus International Research Foundation, of which you have supported us so well. So it's a very special day for us to have you here. Welcome to the United States and welcome to Dallas.
Good morning, Guru. Thank you very much for having welcomed me to such a global platform. I'm humbled by the gesture. One never expected that this would unfold in this manner. And a couple of days back, I happened to be there in Greece celebrating our togetherness with the batchmates of 1983 Summer India National Defence Academy batch. There is something that happened over there which actually triggered a response from one of my closest friends, Colonel M.S. Manwant Singh Johar of Rajputana Rifle of Indian Army. He is based out of Bhuj in India. So today he sent me an epistle of a communication between Albert Einstein and his daughter, which I feel would be suitable enough to share in this platform to get kicking with such a noble podcast which is about to unfold. And what he said is something very interesting. He wrote to his daughter, that when I proposed the theory of relativity, very few understood me. And he went on to say, and what I will reveal now to transmit to mankind will also collide with the misunderstanding and prejudice in the world. And he further went on to say, I ask you, my daughter, to guard the letters as long as necessary, years, decades, until society is advanced enough to accept what I'll explain below. So, what is it that he wanted to tell his daughter? This is what he writes. There is an extremely powerful force that so far science has not found a formal explanation to. And he goes on to say further that it is a force that includes and governs all others and is even behind any phenomena operating in the universe and has not yet been identified by us. So, what is it that he wanted to tell the daughter? This is what he said. This universal force is love. Love. So, with that, I would thank once again the Lighten and the founding father, Guru, you being at the helm of affairs, for having invited me for the podcast.
Thank you so much for sharing that, General. Love is so powerful. Although it's intangible, like you rightly said, it has that moving force, and we love you a lot. And again, thank you for being here. While we go into the depth of this podcast in terms of your experience and your journey, I'd like to take you back to where you started. And you've been in army for 37 years before you retired, and that's almost like 4 decades. And you went to Sainik school when millions of other kids were enjoying their school life. You were preparing the foundation to fight for the country at such a tender age. So can you take us back to your childhood, and what was it like for that schoolboy later to become a celebrated general?
Thank you, Guru, taking me back in times. And I must confess that I am from a village background in Orissa, belong to Rasalpur, Balasore district of Orissa, joined Sainik School in 1972. Sainik School, your central theme of your question, as I understand, is how did Sainik School exposure transform a village boy who knew no Hindi, no English, could not communicate, didn't know how to wear the dress and how to play games, become a general officer in the Indian Army. So the centrality of my exposure in Sainik School are related to many activities. But the most important thing was this exposure enabled me to learn myself within. And I would say, to a large an extent, whether it was games, sports, drill, physical training, academics, a host of other co-curricular activities, painting, declamation, debate, cross country, physical and mental endurance activities. The one thing which I would attribute to my growth story is getting to know that I knew nothing. I came from a village. I couldn't communicate. I couldn't actually lead people. I couldn't understand the task. I couldn't analyze the problem. That was the start point of my career in the growth chart to become a general officer in the Indian Army.
From Sainik School to National Defense Academy to Indian Military Academy, it's been an intense journey for you. Can you capture some of the significant memories through that long and exciting journey, maybe? And also talk about your mentors who shaped you to be who you are today.
Yeah, interesting again, Guru. Makes me feel very nostalgic. National Defense Academy is one of the best and the premier institutions in the world over. Earlier, it used to be in the 8th order of its precedence and standing. These days, I'm given to understand it has been upgraded to 4th or 5th. I don't exactly remember. But the kind of curriculum that we had, we were affiliated to the best of the institutions in the country, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and our curriculum had a mix of both the science and the social sciences. But the most important part was actually making you mentally and physically tough. There is an old saying, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. More than anything else in military leadership, what counts is the character.
You're also recognized for your views on the Indo-Pakistan and maritime security. And in the context of increasing Quad activity, and South China Sea tensions. Where do you see India's maritime doctrine heading?
Excellent question. These are my personal take, but I'm sure it will resonate globally. India is not where it used to be in 1947. India is in the 21st century. The sphere of influence on which India was an effective member of the Committee of Nations in the world was extending from Persian Gulf to Malacca Strait so far. As a student of geopolitics, strategy, and security, my take on the issue is that India's sphere of influence has extended from Persian Gulf to Mediterranean and from Malacca Strait to South China Sea. When I say this, uh, it is not what India military or the gross national power India has. It is what matters is what India has to aspire and ensure that the capability enhancement actually takes precedence over what it has today.
Right.
We need to strive when you talk about Make in India, which started in 2014, or talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, which started in 2022 amidst the pandemic, COVID pandemic. Now India has started doing things, make for the world. We have a long way. Where we are found deficient is what I have told you, the PhD STEM. The orientation of the society is towards social science, political science, history, geography, medical, law. We need to have more number of people doing PhD. That is the central cornerstone to actually grow and become a global power. That's my take. Second thing is, the question which you are asking about Indo-Pacific. People need to understand Indo-Pacific is no longer from Hollywood to Bollywood or the line defining it. Indo-Pacific is actually extending from the west coast of America across the Pacific, okay, cutting across South China Sea, Southeast Asia, right up to the east coast of Africa. And when you talk within this Indo-Pacific spectrum, the Indian Ocean region is from the west coast of Africa, east coast of Africa to the west coast of Australia. The vast expanse is spread over an area of almost about 10,000 kilometers from west to east. North to south is anything between 7 to 9,000 kilometers. Look at the expanse that Indian Ocean region has to play its role. It is the only ocean today in the world which is based on name of a country. And there is the old saying, and that saying goes that he who controls Indian Ocean will control Asia. In 21st century, he who controls Asia will be controlling the world. Why am I making this statement? I'm making this statement out of 4 countries as per the purchasing power parity. In today's 21st century, out of 4 countries, 3 countries are from Asia. China is number 1. Number 2 is America. Number 3 is India as far as the PPP concerned. Number 4 is Japan. PPP, it might have gone down a little bit because of latest revision by IMF. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, this is the Asia century. In Asia century, it is the Indian century. It is not Indian decade. It is Indian century. With that conviction, let me respond to your query. What role India has to play? India has to keep building, keep enhancing its capability. As far as the Navy goes, it has been in a low priority. Of late, they have started shifting priority to the naval assets. We have a total of 170 ships of the vessels. China is about to cross 400. It's gone beyond 400. America has got 350 or something like that. If India has to become a meaningful and substantive kind of a country in the world order today, credibility is, yes, we are giving full marks for the credibility and the trust factor. The global south is in favor of India. Right. But India has to prove in the following terms. Its military might has to grow significantly. The threats are actually different today. Sure. We had recently India-Pakistan 4 days of conflict. Yeah. It was not boots on ground. It is all technology. To look at the precision and the accuracy with which India has struck the targets, be it the 9 targets on the first night, or subsequent 11 airfields. No collateral damage. Strike at midnight. Okay, terrorist infrastructure and terrorist targets. Okay, similarly, the moment Pakistan responded by striking our civilian population and the military installation, India had no option. We had to go back and strike, that too also not in a indiscreet manner. It was with a lot of restraint that we have carried out. Very measured response was given. Those airfields, they have total of 13 airfields. Out of 13 airfields, 11 airfields were struck meaningfully, giving a message that our precision is so accurate without having crossed the border. The Indian international border and the line of control was never crossed by our assets. Nobody has crossed. It is by standoff means, it is by missiles, it is by aerial resources, it is by drones. We could strike and bring Pakistan to knees within 4 days. So that is the kind of capability that we have to aspire. Today, if we have to address to a question which you have raised as far as Indo-Pacific concerned, then I personally feel Andaman Nicobar is not good enough. We need to go beyond that, look towards Philippines, look towards Vietnam, look towards Indonesia, Malaysia. It is happening. It is happening in Madagascar. It is happening as also in the Mauritius. It is happening along the east coast. It is happening in Oman. We may not talk in terms of military bases. Military bases are very, very cost prohibitive. We should talk in terms of what we have with the USA, LEMOA, agreement on logistic exchange. We must have something like, utilizing the resources of these countries in order to deter. We need to have those bottlenecks which can be used to our advantage, mindful of the fact that China's almost about 83% of its energy, fossil fuel, passes through the sea lanes of communication through the Indian Ocean. If China plays naughty or goes out of hand, we must have the places where we can leverage to the advantage of India. That is where it matters in matters of geopolitics, because today China is threat number one towards the global order. In the rules-based international order in 21st century, it is the only country in the world, I feel, along with some satellite states like North Korea, to an extent, Iran to some extent, and a couple of other countries, they are the ones who are denying and defying the rules-based international order which has been promulgated by Apex International Organization. So there is a need for the world order to consolidate, combine its strength, and address the threat which is emerging by the day. The best way to do is to focus on Indo-Pacific, which is stretching what I have just defined, and also India's trade. 90% of its trade is passing through maritime, 55% through the South China Sea, 45% through Suez Canal. China's own trade, by volume 60%, is passing through the maritime lanes. So therefore, we need to understand the vulnerabilities and the sensitivities and cater for enhanced capability to address such kind of emerging threats coming by the day. Thank you.
While you mentioned world order, let me just take this opportunity to thank the entire defense community in India for protecting all the Indians in America and outside.
Thank you.
Move on to your track to dialogues and global forums, which you're a part of. And, this podcast is not enough to cover the length and breadth of your reach and the impact you're making. But I'd quickly like to touch upon your track to dialogues. And do you really believe we're doing enough to shape the narrative internationally on South Asian security issues?
Quick answer to the question is no. India needs to do a lot more, and doing a lot more. I have given out a spectrum of activity for India. We need to divide such kind of strategies in terms of short term, medium term, long term. Short term could be from 2 to 5 years, medium term could be 5 to 10 years, and long term could be from 10 to 15, 20, 25, depending on what subject and theme that you are selecting. And in terms of the very issue of South Asian security imperatives, it is being hijacked by one factor, that is China. So if you have to address a threat perspective as this, so what is it that you are supposed to do? You need to be economically powerful Today, India is just about 4.3, 4.13 trillion. China is an economy which is boosting off, having crossed 19 trillion US dollar economy, going to touch almost 20 trillion anytime.
Right.
US we are not talking of, okay? But I'm talking about the China. So if your aim and objective is to address China, it has carried out strategic encirclement. We may dismiss the point. The fact of the matter is, we had Maldives couple of months back, it was countering India out. Now we have Bangladesh breathing down our neck right at the backyard.
Yeah.
Now Nepal is also brewing and showing, and look at the situation in Myanmar. If this be the kind of immediate neighborhood, will India be able to make any progressive milestones the way we have visualized? No. So what is it that India can do? India can firstly contain, it can counter, and get ready to contest. When amidst these three matrices I am giving, India also must learn how to make progress economically until you become at least a 10 to 15 trillion dollar US economy. Kindly learn how to collaborate or selectively cooperate with China, because it is not only India, the whole world is dependent on China for having made it a manufacturing hub in almost everything. Whether you talk about the pharmaceutical, talk about semiconductor, talk about the mobile that we are boasting of as the second largest producer of mobile in the world, second largest exporter.
Right.
But mind you, behind every mobile, there are such electronic components which we now have to depend on China. Okay, 40% of the pharmaceuticals are produced in India. It is the pharmaceutical basket. But the API, unless we get API from China, you cannot make anything. So therefore, it will take a long-term strategy, selectively cooperate with China to derive maximum advantage, become a 10 to 15 trillion dollar US economy, then start asserting yourself. Till then, just hold fire. That is my strategy.
Military fraternity of late has been diversifying. They've been writing, they've been entrepreneurial, and Major General Sudhakar Jee is no exception. In fact, he excels. You were commanding troops, now you're commanding thought. Now you're a thought leader, you write, you speak in national, international forums. I know you're in major demand as far as media is concerned, and a couple of times when you called, they were like media houses were waiting for you to respond on the TV channels. And this is such a wonderful transition. Having come out of defense after retirement, you've been giving it back to the community, giving back to the defense community as well through your thought leadership and writing and speaking. And you're here in our podcast, which is a testament to your commitment to giving back to the society. So how did this transition happen? Can you just take a minute to comment on it?
Guru, excellent question. I think for kind of a leadership one has to be in military. Military paradigm, they would respond and reflect this question in a different manner. But I'm trying to simplify my response by saying that I have also been a colonel of the Maha Regiment. Okay, so I used to tell my officers, a leader must do 5 essential things. A leader must read, and read. If he's not reading enough, he cannot be a leader.
Right.
Your awareness level has to be very high, much higher than that you can actually, expect your subordinates to do in day-to-day life. So when I say this, I used to always tell them golden principles of a leader: read, write, speak, listen, and teach. Teaching is the sum total of all these 4 ingredients.
And you're doing all of it.
So therefore, what I used to do, my daughter often used to ask me, Papa, what are you doing every day? I write, even if it is half a page, but I read. Okay? Then I write. Whatever I have read, I have got a blue diary. I jot down the points.
Wow.
Okay? So that is writing. Or I write a short story or an article on daily basis, as far as possible. Then I need to actually listen, get into the habit of, if you listen to good speakers, meaningful, substantive speakers, that will also influence your articulation, your knowledge base. And you must give it back, speak. Okay, and sum total of this is my students are not the military people. My students are my sister, whom I had the responsibility to bring her and make sure that she did her economics, masters in economics at a particular place. She was a gold medalist, and my daughter is a big student of mine. So that's how I practice this thing. And that is how the transition from military to this thing was not a big challenge. Because in military, writing crystallizes your thought process.
Sure.
To be an effective leader, you must condense or translate all your thoughts into writing. That is how. It's a way of life in military. I didn't have too much of a problem in shifting into this particular paradigm.
So we now come to the segment of rapid fire round. And General Sudhakar, are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Great. Looking back over your 37 years in uniform and your journey, since what has been your proudest moment and your biggest personal transformation?
Getting nominated for National Defence College. That is the epitome of excellence and professional competence in the Indian Armed Forces. And coming in the merit, in the very select few people who go for this course, was the proudest moment.
Awesome. Finally, what legacy do you hope to leave behind, not just in the armed forces, but in the broader national and strategic space?
In one word, develop trust, respect each other's aspiration, and get into the habit of listening and understanding the perspective of others.
In one word, what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership means leading people to death with no questions in the mind.
Which is that one decision you made under pressure that still defines you?
Courage of conviction, Siachen Glacier, as a company commander. When the attack came to me, I stood by my conviction, did not allow my people to open fire until the 3 all-terrain vehicles came into the killing zone. We hammered them nice and properly, and that was something which I can never forget, and it became a turning point in my career.
What's harder, leading men in battle or navigating diplomacy in a war-torn region?
Leading battle, men in the battle is definitely harder.
Right. Share with us one lesson from Siachen that still applies in boardroom policy making today.
Ability to anticipate, visualize.
Ability to anticipate. Brilliant. If you could go back and give your younger self, fresh out of the academy, just one piece of advice, what would it be?
Listen.
Listen. Art of listening. Great. You have led, negotiated, and strategized. But when do you feel most human?
Selflessness for the nation building. The nation comes first.
If geopolitics were a game of chess, what piece would India be playing right now and why?
Diplomacy and dialogue with the central theme, but be prepared to prevent any kind of violence expected to be unleashed against the countrymen of India.
What is that one advice you would give to young leaders, thinkers, warriors across the globe?
Prepare and prevent, repair and repent.
We just heard General Sudhakar Jee sharing his journey with us on behalf of International Research Foundation and Lighten. Let's stay inspired, and the beacon of inspiration, General Sudhakar. Thank you so much again, and do visit America again for yet another podcast.
Thank you, Guru. I'm sure I'm very, very optimistic that I'll be visiting very soon. And compliments to Lighten. And thank you very much for having invited me for a wonderful podcast, which will perhaps replace the major milestone, which was the turning point in my life and career so far.
That's flattering. On that note, stay inspired. Until next time.